Yeah, so my name is Friedger. I'm from Open Intents, and yeah, Google says there are so many billion apps on the App Store, and Apple says there's so many billion apps on their App Store, and no one is really counting the apps on the web. So I like the decentralized distribution way of the web. So I would like to go in to see how many apps are out there on the web. Oh. Okay. And I do it like this. Hup, yeah. Web is, yeah. So there are many different aspects that are of the web that are already in the Android world. We have the instant apps that take the concept of a URL associated with certain data or a certain screen. We have hybrid apps where you write your app in JavaScript, your native apps in JavaScript. And then you have this progressive web apps where you have JavaScript or web apps that make you think you have a native app. I want to go into that a bit more. So progressive apps, they're good examples from Twitter, Washington Post, from AutoScout, and there are more coming up every day. Progressive web apps, that means you have an app that can work offline, that you can install on your home screen, that can show notifications, that can receive push messages, that can store data locally. And you always also have optimized JavaScript called WebAssembly, so where you can really run efficient or more efficient your calculations. So they're all standardized APIs of the web, and to make your website a progressive web app, technically that means you need to install or register a service worker. You should have some kind of an app shell that is very reactive, so the user gets a fast feedback, and you should define a manifest. So a manifest with icons and title and versions and things like that. But I don't want to get into details on how to do that. So we are Android developers. I want to go, so these apps run on a web browser. A web browser is a very complicated thing. Mainly the hard work is done by the browser engine. We have WebKit and variation of that, like Blink. We have Gecko from Mozilla, Edge HTML from Microsoft, and Servo is a new version from Mozilla, another browser engine. They do the really hard work. So they make sure that everything is rendered, you have animations, you have styling and all this. And they also manage the memory. So it can happen that in your app it does not work. So in Twitter currently you cannot add an image to your tweet because the underlying browser engine cannot handle the memory for the images. So, but that's all done by the browser engine. We want to look at the fancy stuff, the browser UI, so everything that makes a good user experience. And looking at the most famous Android browsers on Android, looking from the amount of users, there's Chrome very on the top. They use the Blink browser engine. There's the UC browser, the Chinese browser, also based on WebKit. Samsung Internet with Blink behind, Opera also Blink. The Android browser as well, Firefox, as I said, is from Mozilla, the Gecko browser engine, and Amazon have their own browser, Silk. It's also with Blink. So the hardware is done by someone else, and all the brands do some fancy stuff around it. And what do they do around it? It's about app shortcuts, for example. So that's something that's not done by the browser engine. Handling payments. So there is an API how you can initiate a payment, But how you do it on the device, how the browser shows this to the user, that is something that needs to be implemented. If you want to use Android Pay, if you integrate some other payment methods or things like that, that's done. How the intents, if you are handled, if you click on URL, if you have certain schemes that you want to support in your browser, that is done separately. Which search engine you support. So for Google Chrome, it's quite easy. There's a dominant one. For other browsers, you have a quite good choice if you want to do a search using different engines. Bookmarks, data storage as well. So these are all things that, as an Android developer, one has to do. And lastly, there's a very important one, add to home screen. That is the thing that makes the user feel like, okay, now I have my web app on my phone. And there's a very new recent development. Until now, if you click on add to home screen, a bookmark is created, and then the link is with the link to the start URL of the web page is added to your home screen. So let's do it. We have our Twitter link. But now, since last week, really, it's in the general public. You can, if you click on the add to home screen, you generate an APK, you download it, or there are browsers that do it. They generate an APK and install the APK on your device. And that's now you have an APK on your device. It's Google Chrome. So since last week, Google Chrome creates an APK for your web page. So no Cordova anymore. You really get something like this. So Google queries Google Play services, Chrome queries Google Play services, and they do some magic, create the APK through some Google backend or so, and then Google Play Services installs this without user interaction on your device. So remember, it's not without user interaction. The user asks Chrome to do it. Yeah. So, and now you have really APKs for your web page. You can uninstall your APK. You can manage your notification for this web app. And these APKs are called WebAPKs. It was announced in 2016 at the Chrome Dev Summit, and that's now in the general public. And you should try it out to see how it feels. And the WebAPK, what does it do? It's very lightweight, very small, and it basically starts a launcher intent for the Chrome browser. If you look into the manifest, it kind of can be configured which browser should be launched, but it's really the Chrome browser that only supports it at the moment. They say, or Google says, or Paul Kinlan says, the Google Play Services API will be opened up, so other browsers can do the same thing. But currently, who knows when and what. That gives Chrome, I think it gives Chrome a very big advantage over the other browsers. Whether it's anti-competitive, I don't have to decide that, but to discuss. So now, hopefully you think progressive web apps are cool. They're good things, and maybe the future for many apps that maybe don't need a native app. But we are still Android developers, so what shall we do now? And then really, what I said, we need to look at browsers where we can add some code, where we can do all the hard stuff for the user to make good user experience for progressive web apps. So I tried to collect all the different browsers that are open source available, and I tried to group them. We have everything that's based on Chromium. Building Chromium for Android, I think you can do it, but it's really hard. So therefore, I didn't put a link where to go. There's a Brave browser that's based also on Chromium, and they take really the code from Chromium and provide build instructions how to do it. Brave is made by the developers who also did the bubble thing. So it's a browser that really cares about privacy. Then you have other people that take the Chromium packages and just wrap a Gradle thing around it, and then they have a good browser. So there's not much, I would say, where you have possibility to improve. There are lots of browsers where they just take a web view, and then you build the UI around that. Android browser does it, so the standard of the ASP. The Lightning browser is a famous open source app that is based on the web view. Also Firefox Focus, it's a project from Mozilla where they try to focus on privacy as well. They use a web view. Also Jelly from Lineage project. So that's a lightweight, very lightweight browser, open source available. Using the browser engine Gecko, you have the Mozilla Firefox, or you have a Tor version of it that uses Firefox behind it. And more experimental, you have the server, the Servo browser engine that's written in Rust. And there you can also build it for Android and make a nice UI around that. There's Bunsen. They do a peer-to-peer browsing network, so also crazy stuff. But it's Android app, and you can contribute to that as well. And finally, Chroma is an interesting project. They delegate to custom Chrome tabs. So it's just to give you an idea of what is available, where you can have a look at it. And to start going into the code, it's really easy for the projects that are hosted on GitHub, and you have a Gradle setup. So you just download and you open it in Android Studio and can look into the code, make it work, and contribute back. For the Android browser, as I said, it's more difficult because you need the repo tool, you need to more or less build the Android open source project, so that's really hard. And also for Chromium, you need extra tools, but it's not so, I would say it's not so easy to get it work. For Firefox, it's also not easy. So if you really want to make a contribution to that, make a difference, because Firefox is quite popular, it takes really long build up to be at the state where you can send pull requests. You need to know the Mercurial version control, so it's not Git. You need Mach build tools, so they collect everything, and so you know it? Okay. Mach build tools, that's the Mozilla build tools. And then there's also a description where you follow it, explain a bit more what the Mach tools build. But the nice thing afterwards, you can open Android Studio and have a Gradle build set up. So there's a bit of startup time, but then you're good to go. You have all the Gecko thing in a jar, in the dependencies, and that's loaded into your project, so that's easy. The people at Mozilla are available through the IRC channel. There's a mobile channel for that, and they're quite open where you can discuss what you can contribute, how to do it. And finally, there's Bugzilla, where all the issues are listened. That's where you can contribute what is requested, and you can open new ones. And I think to search for good bugs for you, you should add in the whiteboard field that you want to do it in Java. So Langs equal Java is a good search for that. So that's a bit what I wanted to explain. And do you have any questions? I don't know. I'm too fast? Oh, it's okay.
Hi. Hello.
Yeah.
Thank you for the talk. I have a question. Trying to play devil's advocate, we're actually looking into non-native alternatives for native apps at the company that I'm working in, and we decided for a reactive approach. Purely because the progressive web apps doesn't have the same look and feel. The buttons don't look the same, the interaction, the small thing that the user kind of gets a feeling they're not on a mobile app and they're on a website. How much work do you have to put into actually making the progressive web app feel like a native app when you're not using something like React Native?
I cannot tell that. So, but the idea of the progressive apps is that the user gets used to using your website, and then at a certain point, they feel so addicted to it that they want to have it on the device. And that's when you install it. So really doing there's no difference between having the website and the website on your device. So I don't see a need to change my UI after I installed it on my device to make it really look like something else.
Okay, I understand. So there's no need for a native experience.
Yes.
It's just a web experience on a mobile device.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So
that's a specific use case.
There's a different discussion about what is the mobile experience on different devices. So that's a different talk about design, about attracting different users on different devices, but it's not technically a problem.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, thank you for the talk. I have a question about Android Oreo. I think they changed the API to create shortcuts. And so now can you confirm that Chrome doesn't create regular shortcuts anymore?
Yeah.
And you need to use that new APK build feature instead?
So Chrome does not create shortcuts for bookmarking.
Yeah.
They create WebAPKs. So they install APKs on your device.
So I didn't test with other browsers, but for example with Firefox, I guess they will have to update to the new APIs.
Yeah, they have to update. So the current situation is on Ori, they remove the possibility to add bookmarks to home screen because
and now
the update is
with the new APIs, I think you see the browser icon as a small icon on the bottom right.
Yeah.
So it kind of feels less native because So the APK allows to avoid showing that small icon, I guess.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So they say. So people complained about my book or my installed apps. They have this ugly icon, and then said, yeah, okay, in the next version of Chrome it will be fixed. But they did not fix the issue. But Chrome did a different approach to that. So for all the other browsers, it's still broken.
Yes, there was some point where you could not create the new, could not build the APK, but you couldn't use the old API. So now that it's in production, I guess it's fixed. Okay, thank you.
Well, it's not fixed, but Chrome takes advantage of their monopoly.
I mean, it's fixed in Chrome.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then enjoy lunch. Thank you very much.